Hey everybody, we're going to talk about mean, median, mode, and range. Alright, mean, median, and mode are just what we're going to call a measure of central tendency, and then range is just another way to represent the data. Okay, when you look at mean, it's just another way to think of average. So when your teachers average your test scores, this is actually the method that they use. They add up all your test scores and then they divide it by the number of test scores they are. So in other words, they take the sum of all the data values and then they divide it by the number of data values that there are. All right, when we look at median, we're thinking about the middle of a data set. The key here is that you want to order them from least to greatest before you start. An easy way to remember this one is the median is the middle of the road. So we want to think of the middle of the data set. Your mode is just the data value that occurs most often. Keep in mind that you can have no modes, you can have one mode, or you could have many modes. If you have a data value that doesn't occur more than once, or if your data set doesn't have any values that occur more than once, you would say that you have no modes. And then finally, the range is just the highest value of your data set minus the lowest value. Okay, so let's actually look at this data set that we have here. We're looking at test scores that are out of 10. Now, the first thing we want to do is actually order this from least to greatest, if it's not already done so. All right, so here we are. We have it ordered from least to greatest. Now, to find the mean, we're just going to add up all our data values. So 2 plus 4 plus 5 plus 7 plus 8 plus 9 plus 10 divided by the total number of tests that there were. So there's 7 tests, so we're going to divide that by 7. All right, the total on the top is going to give you 45, and the total on the bottom is just 7 still. And then we take 45 divided by 7, and we're going to get 6.4. So our mean is 6.4. All right, our median, like I said before, is just our middle value of our data set. This is the important reason why we order it. So our middle of our data set, there's 3 on this side, 3 on this side, so our middle is just a 7, so our median is 7. Our mode is the one that occurs most often. Now, if you look at your data, there is only 1, 2, 1, 4, 1, 5, 1, 7, 1, 8, 1, 9, and 1, 10. Nothing repeats, so there's actually, our mode would be none in this case because nothing occurs more than once. And then our range finally is just our highest value, which is 10, minus our lowest value, which is 2. When we do that, we get 8, so our range would be 8. And that is how you find mean, median, mode, and range. All right, let's look at one more example. Okay, once again, first thing you do before you start is put the data in order from least to greatest if it's not already given like that for you. All right, so here we are. We have our data in order. We're going to add it all up. 1 plus 2 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus 7 plus 9, all divided by the total number of values, which is 8. All right, when we add up our top, we're going to get 33 over 8. And when we divide that out, we're going to get 4.1. I always just round these to one decimal place, so to the nearest tenth. For our median, we're going to look at our middle value. Well, our middle value here, there's actually 4 values here, and then another 4 on this side, so our middle actually falls between 3 and 4. Now, most of you can see that the number between 3 and 4 is going to be 3.5, but let's say it's 2 numbers that are farther apart, like 10 and 18. Okay, so what you would do in that case is take the middle 2 numbers, which is 3 and 4 in this case, and you're going to add them together, so 3 plus 4, and divide it by 2. So really what you're doing is finding the average of those middle two numbers. Well, 3 plus 4 is 7 over 2, and 7 divided by 2 gives you 3.5. So your median would be 3.5. Once again, if you have two values that fall in the middle, like 3 and 4, you're going to add those two together, divide by 2. On our last example, we had a very clear set middle, so we didn't need to do that. All right, the mode is the number that occurs most often. In this case, we have a 2 that repeats, so our mode in this case would be 2. Now keep in mind, like let's say we had another 9 in our data set. Well, there would be 2 2s and 2 9s, so then we would also have 9 in our mode along with 2. But that's not the case in this data set. There is no second 9 there. And then our range is, remember, our highest value, which is 9, minus our lowest value, which is 1, so our range is going to be 8. All right, we're going to talk about the best measure of central tendency. Remember, central tendency is either mean, median, or mode. All right, in order to figure out what the best measure of central tendency is you want to figure out whether you have an outlier. An outlier is just a number that doesn't fit in the data set. So meaning it's way higher or way lower than the rest of the numbers in the set. You're going to use mean as the best measure when there is not an outlier, median when there is an outlier, and the mode when it's non-numerical data. Okay, so if we look at this data here, let's say that this is the ages of everybody in your class, which ranges about 14, 15, or 16 years old. And then this one right here is Mrs. Cornell. Okay, so obviously that 26 does not fit in there. So the 26 would be considered an outlier. Well, when there's an outlier, the best measure of central tendency, we would actually use the median. Okay, this is because mean, is a way to find average, and this 26 is going to throw the average off quite a bit. Okay, where when we're talking about median, it's really not going to affect the middle value too much. Now let's say we got rid of that 26 and we didn't incorporate Mrs. Cornell into finding the average of the class. Okay, so now we just have 14, 15, and 16 as our values that we're working with. So there's not an outlier in this case. So now the best measure of central tendency would actually be to use the mean. Okay. All right, looking at your favorite color, okay, this is non-numerical data, and the only way to best represent this data, the best measure of central tendency would be to use the mode, because that's going to tell us which favorite color occurred the most. All right, and then finally, this is going to be the hardest problem that you see from this section. You have 6 test scores throughout the year. You have scored an 80, an 82, 83, 79, and 85 on the first 5. And you want to figure out what you have to score on your last test to average an 83. Well, average, remember, is just a fancy way to say mean. And to find mean, we have to add them all up and divide by the number there is. So we're going to add up the ones that we know, 80 plus 82 plus 83 plus 79 plus 85. And then we also have to add the one that we don't know, the one that is our final test. Well, remember, when we don't know something, we use a variable, so plus x. And then we're going to divide that by the total number of tests that there are, which is 6, and that's going to equal our average of 83. Okay, so now to start solving this, I want to add up all my numbers on the top. When I do this, I get 409. So now I have 409 plus x divided by 6 equals 83. All right, now if we remember from solving two-step equations, we want to get rid of the 6 on the bottom first. Well, it's being divided by 6, so we want to multiply by 6. That's going to cancel that out. So I need to multiply by 6 on this side as well. So now I'm left with 409 plus x equals 83 times 6 gives you 498. To solve this, I subtract 409. And so you're going to get, I'm going to write it up here, x is equal to 89. Okay, which means your final test score has to be an 89%. All right. For tomorrow, bring to class, tell me what the best measure of central tendency would be if there is an outlier. So what would you use if there is an outlier? All right, we'll see you tomorrow.